Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Megan, and today we're going to talk about history. Now, we have used a few different history curriculums in our homeschool, and today I'm going to talk about 3 of those. They are all literature-based histories, and they are ones that I have gotten common questions on regarding, well, can you compare these, or can you compare those? The 3 histories that we are going to be comparing today are BiblioPlan, Story of the World, and My Father's World. Now, recently I shared a video that was a curriculum haul of new curriculum coming in for this next homeschool year, and in that haul I showed our second year of BiblioPlan coming down the pike next year. We have been enjoying this so much, and I have gotten a lot of questions regarding BiblioPlan in relation to either Story of the World or My Father's World. Now, when we started our homeschooling journey 9 years ago, we started with My Father's World Kindergarten. We have done their kindergarten, their first grade, their adventures in U.S. history, and also their 1850s to modern time, which is what we used last year. We have also used Story of the World quite a bit in our homeschool as well, because it is also utilized by My Father's World. And on the years where we were in between family cycles with My Father's World, we used Story of the World. Now, I want to get into a little bit of comparison here just so you can see the difference. I've had a lot of people asking me, okay, why did you switch to BiblioPlan from Story of the World? Or why did you switch to BiblioPlan from My Father's World? And so I think getting into the comparison of these different literature-based histories, I think once I get into that comparison, you'll kind of understand a little bit more as to why it works better for our family to use BiblioPlan. But first, I want to share a little bit about each curriculum on its own, just so you're more acquainted with it. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at Story of the World. Story of the World is built on a 4-year history cycle. Now, this is meant to, on a 4-year cycle, the mindset is that you would study ancient 1 year, medieval another, early modern, and modern. Once you get through that history cycle, you cycle back around and you go into more depth through each history cycle once again. So that's kind of the mindset there. Now, with Story of the World, it is written exactly as it sounds, history in story form. It does not go into a lot of depth. It allows you to go into more depth if you would like, because you can then purchase the activity book to go along with it. Now, well, that's not history. In the activity guide, you would have, for example, when you're reading chapter 1, it's about Britain's empire. It's going to give you other reference materials. You can use the Kingfisher Illustrated History of the World, the Usborne Book of World History, so on and so forth. These are cross-references that you might want to bring in for greater depth that I was talking about. There's review questions here that you can ask your children after you've read through this, or after they've read it, or after they've listened to the audio version, which we have. Then there is also specific, sometimes they do have student pages, sometimes they have additional history reading and corresponding literature suggestions. So if you are wanting to make this a full literature-based history, then you would pick a literature selection maybe for each chapter to read as read-alouds or for your student to read. There's also map work included in here, as well as projects. And you find all of those things here in the back. You have the map work, and it will give specific instructions in the front. And then you also have different pages, student pages that go along with the projects and things like that. So that is a little bit about Story of the World. So as you can see, this is a good one, especially for elementary age. If you are not wanting to get super deep into history yet, but just want the exposure of the topics, this is a good one for that. I will say the modern times, if you have younger elementary students, this one goes into a lot of intense happenings in history. Now on to my father's world. Now this is the 1850s to modern times. Once you get into the family cycle of history, it is 3rd through 8th grade is the recommended ages for their family cycle. It is made up the same way as far as the cycle years. It's got 4 cycle years and they range the same time frames. It is the ancient, the medieval, early modern, and modern. So that is the time periods that they are going to cover. Now last year we did 1850 to modern times. The difference with this one is there are this one's 4th through 8th grade, but you can get the extension for younger siblings, which is what we did last year. Now this curriculum right here is a lot different. It's greater depth. It also includes more subject areas. And this is the family or teacher guide, whatever you want to call it. And this is an example of what it looks like. So each day you go through here and it is telling you everything that you need to do. As you can see, it references using Story of the World. So with My Father's World, you have this teacher guide here, but then you also have a bunch of other text components. You will use the American History Encyclopedia, this one right here. You use In God We Trust. You use Story of the World. You use lots of read alouds and things like that. It will also plan out science in here for you as well. And basically the only subjects that you have to bring into this, it's set up family style. So the only subjects that you have to bring into this is your children's independent reading, language arts, and math. So it would cover pretty much everything else. It does have suggestions for curriculum to use for spelling as well. So then you would just go through here and check it off if you want to, if you're a checklist person. But that is how the teacher guide is laid out. And then, as I said, you're using multiple texts. You're also using really good read alouds to go along with it as well. Now, a lot of the read alouds in here are a lot of the same popular selections that curriculums like Sunlight will use, and also what Story of the World uses as well. Now, a difference here is that you will have greater depth on topics because you have all these other resources you're pulling in and things like that. But you're also, it is going to cost more, obviously, because you've got a lot more going on with this. And it's going to include a wider range of ages. So one other thing before I move on from My Father's World is I did want to say that while it is covering 1850 to modern times as far as kind of a world history view, it is also taking a large focus on American history as well, including learning the states and their capitals and facts about the states and things like that. There is a component that also provides a few student sheets as well. Those are mainly ones that deal with notebooking or doing copy work regarding the presidents, but then also the states, the 50 states. Okay, so the next curriculum is BiblioPlan, and BiblioPlan is also on a 4-year history cycle. Again, we did medieval times this year. Next year we will move on to early modern times, and it begins, of course, with ancient times and ends with modern times. So with BiblioPlan, you are also going to have a family guide. So the difference in BiblioPlan is this right here. It is grades K through 12. So this right here is the heart basically of this program. The way that this works is if you have a student who is kindergarten through about 7th or 8th grade, you will use the text Remember the Days, History for Junior Readers. Now they do have another text that if you have a high schooler, then you would purchase that additional text as well, and it is done almost kind of independently alongside the family here. Now, this family guide, what's great about the way this is laid out is, again, it's very similar in layout to My Father's World. However, you can customize this to whatever your family needs. So if you want to just use this family guide along with the text, you certainly can. However, they also offer a coloring book. They offer student pages. They offer timelines. They offer just review questions for younger kiddos. They offer maps, and then they also offer other things like projects, like different projects, hands-on craft books, things like that. So you can really customize this to whatever your needs are. Now, because this is a 4-year cycle, which is your typical classical history cycle, what is nice is that if you are a CC family, so if you do Classical Conversations or Veritas or Claritas, then what's nice is each week it tells you which memory cards go with this lesson as far as the memory work goes if you are a classical homeschooling family. Now, up here, it is going to lay out exactly what you need to do. It's going to tell you which sections of the text to read for the day. Then it also is going to tell you any supplements, any hands-on supplements like the coloring book or Hands-on Europe, which are European maps and things like that, learning the countries and everything. Discussion guide. It's going to tell you which day to do each of these things. If you want to include their Bible reading, they have a Bible reading plan here that is embedded in their family guide. And then these are additional texts that you can add in that, as you can see, they are optional. If you want to use Story of the World, it will tell you which chapter of Story of the World goes along with what they're learning this week. If you want to use Mystery of History, you can read that chapter of Mystery of History. So there's all these other additional resources you could pull in if you want to. So it's completely customizable. Now, a big thing that I love is the literature readings, the suggestions that they have. They have it broken down by age, so you can choose some literature selections for your children of these ages to read. And then there's also a section on the opposite page that tells you the family read aloud for the week and how you can adapt that for writing ideas depending on which stage of writing your child is in. So this would be, if you were reading this as a family read aloud, then you could have them do a little writing assignment to go along with it. There's also more info about the hands-on activities. And then this section right here of other resources and ideas is gold, you guys. It gives movie suggestions. It has the drive-through history section. These videos we have used several times. We're able to access them through Right Now Media. There's also free online videos, which is great because they have gone through and they've already screened some of these to tell you these are good resources. Additional books, and then also the hands-on fun book where they can do a fun little craft or project. So the next thing that I want to point out is maybe how the text reads. So this looks like a typical textbook. However, it doesn't read like a typical textbook. It's got great references. It has these little sections where it's like, oh, what are the Normans? And it explains different vocabulary words or things that may come up that your child may not know. It's got these great pictures that go along with what they're reading about and everything. So this is kind of an inside look at what the text looks like. Now, in regards to picking which one of these works the best for your family, that's for you to decide. And I hope that this video kind of gave you a crash course look at the differences in these three popular programs for literature-based history. But I want to go now into why we have moved on to BiblioPlan. So for us, there were quite a few things with My Father's World. I do love My Father's World, and it will always, I think, kind of be near and dear to my heart because it is what we started with, and it is a well-written program in all of its resources and things like that. But it does have a lot of resources, and when in homeschooling a large family, sometimes having a ton of resources that I'm constantly pulling off a shelf can be a little bit overwhelming for me, especially in a teacher guide that has so many different things laid out in it and stuff like that. It is a great program, and it's always one that I recommend when people ask me for different recommendations. I always give them these three that I'm telling you guys about. So there's nothing wrong with the program, it just the fit for us, but then also the age ranges. So that was important to me. It's easier for me, and my kids enjoy doing history together as a family, and having something like BiblioPlan that could be used literally if you wanted to from kindergarten to 12th grade is a wonderful thing because we can all sit down still and do history together. We always have great discussions regarding what we're learning in history, and that's something that that our family really enjoys together. For us personally, we don't do formal history until about 2nd grade just because of the extent of some of the topics. So that is just a very personal family decision right there. The next deciding factor for me, besides it being K through 12, but also My Father's World is really expensive. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's very expensive. BiblioPlan is a lot more affordable, especially because you can customize it to the exact components that are right for your family. So maybe you're just starting out with BiblioPlan and you want the heart of the program, which is the family guide, and maybe you want their text, and maybe you have little ones, so you just want the coloring book and maybe the hands-on activities and projects guide. I don't know. I'm just giving an idea. And then maybe when you cycle back through it, you're going to add maybe the timeline and maybe the map work and maybe the student pages. So when you cycle through it a second time when your kids are older, then you would add these components into it. And then if you cycle back through it a third time, then at that point you would probably have a child who is in high school, and you would need to purchase the high school text to go along with it. So I hope that that kind of explains that a little more, but I love the ease of this program, the readability of the text, and the depth that the text goes into. There are times when we pull out Story of the World. You can see it's marked. There are times when we pull this out, especially if there is a certain chapter that maybe goes into depth on a topic that some of my kids may not be ready for, in my opinion. And so I would maybe read them that part in here, and my older kiddos would do that section in BiblioPlan. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to say about all these history programs, that BiblioPlan and My Father's World are more from a Christian standpoint, especially in the medieval history. It's going to go a lot into church history of BiblioPlan, and same with My Father's World in their Rome to Reformation. For Story of the World, it is considered neutral. It's not really secular. It's not really Christian based. It's more of a neutral. It is from a more kind of young earth perspective as to when it starts history. And it does reference different biblical stories in the ancient times. So, and obviously it's going to give some church history background because that was a big part of history anyway. But that is a little more about that comparison there. So if you have any more questions about these 3 different curriculum, you can put it down in the comments below. I hope that you guys found this video helpful. I know I've had a lot of people asking these type of questions, and I hope that I'm answering them in this video. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Make sure that you subscribe to stay tuned for upcoming curriculum selections for the upcoming year, and any other homeschooling or homemaking content that you might be interested in. Thanks so much, guys, and have a very blessed day.